You know how that went. You know what I'm saying? Rowdy Records, Claude Austin, Dallas Austin's brother. You know what I'm saying? They were looking at me. You know what I'm saying? And we had a deal on the table at one time. I think they had the King and I on their roster, and I forget who else they had, but then that fell through. And then I finally signed a deal with this cat named Carl Martin. Now, Carl Martin went to Howard, but Carl Martin was in a group called Shy. For those that don't know who Shy is a four-man group, If I Ever Fall in Love. Huge record, you know what I'm saying? And that enabled them, they did multi-platinum out the gate. So that enabled him to get a deal in the MCA, and I signed to him. But the problem with that, and shout out to Carl for even giving me an opportunity, the problem with that was he didn't really understand, he was on that side of the fence. I was on this side of the fence. So he kind of depended on me to do certain things. And quite honestly, I wasn't ready to take the bull by the horns just yet. Even though at that particular time, I'm strictly a spitter. That's it. Never really understanding all of I do some production, but not really there. So I'm depending on him, and the sound, it just didn't click. So while I was signed to them, or to him, there were people that went to Howard that still knew that I did what I did or do what I do. And again, like I told you, Derek Angeletti, but then there's also Mark Pitts, who also went to Howard. And Mark Pitts, for people that don't know, he's kind of was the understudy under Puff, who also went to Howard, during the beginning stages of Bad Boy, but he also managed Big. And so what happened with that was he parlayed that into a situation over at Universal Records, by Storm Universal. And so, looking for artists for By Storm, Dot, brought me up to Mark and was like, yo, you remember Trey? Da-da-da-da. But Mark didn't know that I got down like that. But, D-Dot did, because me and Dot, he's still my mentor to this day. He told him, like, look, man, I got music on him, da-da-da-da. Won't you hear this? Won't you, you know what I'm saying? And so not only was it Dot's influence, but when Mark got the tape, he also used to play it in the car, and Big was in the car too. So, with Big's cosign, basically telling Mark, yo, this kid is nice, blah, blah, blah. With that cosign, along with Dot, finally we get the deal with By Storm in the spring of 96. Yep, April of 96. And I'll stop right there.
When you got signed, how long did it take to make that record?
Man, I signed that deal in April of 96. That record, the theme, are you talking about the theme?
The whole
party time?
The whole project.
The whole project. Okay, so it was quick. It was unheard of, actually. So I signed the deal in April of 96. We had two records that we did. The first record that I did was called Showtime. Showtime is a record that I had. I don't think a lot of people heard it. No matter of fact, yeah. I'm not going to say nobody has heard it, but there's very few people that have heard this record. We put that out on white label, and it had Faith Evans on it. Has Faith Evans on it. Circulated it, didn't stick. So then we made another joint called I Like It Like That, where we used the lady sample, D'Angelo. You know what I'm saying? Fire record. Kid Capri was on that record. You know what I'm saying? Put it out there, didn't stick. All of this is still during that springish summertime of 96. So then finally we go in the studio. Me and Dot had already thought about the theme prior to that, just based off of the sample, Pieces of a Dream, Mount Airy Groove, because I wanted to represent Philly. Whatever happened, I needed that particular record and a song. And lo and behold, I didn't know it was going to be the first single, but I knew that it was going to be a smash whenever we did it. But I wanted it to represent Philly. So, and plus those scratches, that was in the Park stuff back in the day. You know what I'm saying? The zigga zigga.
Right.
So it was nostalgic. And then he put the world famous Supreme Team sample in it. And then you got the Schoolhouse Rock element. And everywhere that my crew go, you know what I'm saying? The people that don't know that melody, you know that they're nouns. You know that they're nouns. Oh, so we had the elements of a smash. It was just a matter of putting it together and putting it out there. And so we put that out. And at first, people didn't co-sign, and I'll get into, my theory as to why in a second. But it was Red Alert. This was October of '96. Red Alert heard that record, and back then, when Red Alert put a stamp on it, especially in New York, everybody was following. So he put the stamp on it, and pew, we was gone from that point. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, we was going to the point where it kind of forced Universal. Well, Universal forced us to put together the project because now they want to play catch up and try to get album sales off of a single, which in hindsight was not the right move. Not even in hindsight. Back then, it was like, this is not the right move. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't even know who I am. They know that record, after a couple of, but even after I put the album, they still didn't know who I was. So I thought putting the app project and the album together was a little premature. You know what I'm saying? But, we put it together, released the joint in March 25th and April 8th. Then there's some discrepancies of when the official release was. Shout out to DJ Parlay. That's my brother and my partner during this whole process. You know what I'm saying? He
Okay.
co-produced half of the album. And me and him co-produced like 4 or 5 songs on my debut album, which is also unheard of. You know what I'm saying? For new artists, you know what I'm saying, to come in and be able to, to have some kind of control over the situation. But that goes to show you that they, in my mind, not necessarily rush the project musically, but rush the whole process, meaning people still didn't know who Trey was. You know what I'm saying? So that's how that went down. You know what I mean? But yeah, so to answer your question, we were signed in April of '96. The album dropped in April of '97 with the steam from the theme is Party Time bubbling from October of '96, taking us into the new year.
Were you pleased overall with that project?
Oh, I was definitely pleased with the project. Like, a lot of people don't understand. A lot of those songs, like, that were on that project, we had done a couple of years before we got signed, and that just speaks to songs like us making great material that is able to stand the test of time. You know what I'm saying? By the time Ears got a hold of that record, a few of those records was like 3 years old already. Like, I Walked on Ice, but I Never Fell, and Rugged One, and Repent. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was pleased with the project. I just wasn't pleased with the setup. You know what I'm saying? The setup just wasn't followed. Like, again, the record was bigger than Trey, and
Mm-hmm.
not on no ego shit, but as
Right.
far as being a lasting figure in his game, you have to be bigger than your records. Your records can't be bigger than you. You see what I'm saying? So,
How did life change for Tracey Lee after the album and the success of the theme?
oh, it changed, and it changed fast. You know what I'm saying? And I see people talking about "Give It Up, Baby." You give it up, and you know what? I'm glad y'all, because at the time we thought that was the wrong single to pull out. Man, we was looking for Stars in the East. That to me was the only record that could have followed the theme. But I'm not. I love all of those records. It's just it's about the sequencing of an album too. Like you got to be happy with how things are heard. You know what I'm saying? So, but nevertheless. It was fast, man. Like I said, I signed that deal in April '96. I'm on the road by December '96, January '97, and it doesn't stop until. And you talking about promo and saying and working the record, like it doesn't really stop until maybe the fall, winter of '97. So it's going like this. It's going like this. You know what I'm saying? And each city that I hit, they're adding the record. They're adding the theme. So that's why the theme kind of lasted so long. Again, we're talking about October '96. People were still adding that record because they didn't officially go for ads until '97. They let it bubble in the region and then officially go for ads until '97. Now I think if they would have did that without releasing the album, then I think the thirst would have been there. Like, okay, Let's hear what the next single is. Maybe you drop like 2 or 3 singles, you know what I'm saying, before you actually drop the album. But they decided to let the album run um, um, parallel with, you know what I'm saying, the single. So, but life changed drastically, man, drastically.
After the album dropped and it did its thing, was the label pressuring you for the sophomore album, or did is this the point where you maybe took a step back?
So this is where things get sticky. So, as you know, we're going through '97. Give It Up, Baby. We released that. Give It Up, Baby didn't get the traction that the theme got. And so Universal is a young company at that particular time. Like Universal is really just getting their hands and feet wet as far as hip hop is concerned. It really is as far as music is concerned. I mean, MCA was under that bubble, but this particular setup at that time, they didn't understand, you know, hip hop music and how it should be marketed and promoted and things like that. So their whole philosophy was, let's just make records, throw them up against the wall, see if they stick. If they don't, we move on. Now it becomes more difficult when you don't have the support in the building. So what happened was, you know, By Storm had went to LaFace by top of '98, right? But Universal decided to keep me, right? But the problem with that was two things that happened. And I'm going to answer the whole pressure you to make the album. Two things happened. By then, talking about '98, here comes Cash Money. Here comes the Saint Lunatics. And then the other part about that is now Trey doesn't really have representation in the building. So it's frowned upon for an artist to go in there and try to handle his own business. They want representation, whether it be, the imprint representative or your manager or what I'm saying, somebody like that. But all my representation had left. So what was I supposed to do? They still gave me a budget to make an album. You know what I'm saying? Um, and as a matter of fact, we made an album called Live from the 215. It took us about 2 years to do that. You know what I'm saying? And D Dot was still there. So myself, Dot, we kind of executive produced it. You know what I'm saying? Mark, I was still signed to By Storm technically, so Mark still had his hand in it. But it was really like me and D Dot, like just seeing the whole process all the way through. We got and we created a monster that nobody's ever heard. Like it got production by a Wet Behind the Ears Kanye on it. It got Buckshot on it. It got Black Rob on it. It got my R&F crew on it. It got Corrupt on it. You know what I'm saying? And then I did a video called We Like that has an up and coming Ludacris on it, has an up and coming Little John on it that nobody had ever seen or heard. You know what I'm saying? Because I shot the joint in Atlanta, um, and and a cat by the name of Brian Barber who did all of Outkast videos and shot Idlewild. He shot this particular video.
Okay.
So we released 2 singles, and then this was like 2000. By two, yeah, no, this was like 99, 2000, and then 2000 they Universal pulled the plug. They decided not to move forward with it based off of everything that I said. So now we're kind of in limbo. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm trying to figure out what the next step is. So I moved back home. You know, slept on my mom's couch for a couple months until she told me, "You gotta go." You know what I'm saying? I don't know where you're going, but you got to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? So then I went down to Atlanta to live with my brother. And so while I was down there, that's when it really hit the fan. Like now the money, like I made my money stretch for a minute, say about a year. You know what I'm saying? Still trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, my brother goes to grad school. So now I'm really down there. Thank God, there was a young lady down there that I was dating, and you know what I'm saying, she kind of took care, but it was a pride thing. I really didn't want it to be like that, but I was still trying to figure it out. And so I got down to my last $7. I'm a very spiritual cat. Went to church, dropped the seven in the pan, and just gave it to God. Like, you figure this out, man. Because what I'm gonna do with this? All I could do is go get a meal. So I'm leaving it to you. Prayed, and then that's when the revelation hit me. You know what I'm saying?
Was the
Go
Revelation law school?
Absolutely.
Let's get
But
into
before
it.
we get there, while I'm down in Atlanta, I actually, released a couple of joints. I was on a Social Death mixtape. Shout out to Jermaine Dupri. Shout out to my man DJ Shot Cameron. Shout out to Cage. So I was still active. I had released a single called Ready, Willing, and Able with a flip side, Get On It, on that joint, which was funded by my good brother Marlon Wayans, you know what I'm saying, who also went to Howard, you know what I mean? So we were still active. I was doing stuff for Nike. I was on the road with John Sally doing the Nike Battleground, which is a one-on-one basketball competition um, across the United States. And shout out to my cousin Adrian, who's still at Nike right now, that was the plug on that. So I was still active. I was still out there. I was still
Can,
grinding.
can you give
But
us a time frame of this right now?
this is like 2000, 2001.
Okay.
This is like 2000, like summer 2000, summer 2001. Yeah, you remember Nike Battleground? Yeah, it was on MTV and all that. So I was still active, but again, and that kept me afloat. But it was still like I gotta transition. And so that's when, like I said, my money was dwindling down. I went to church and all that, and did that, gave it to God, and boom, go to law school. Go to law school. You know what I'm saying? And so before I decided to started to apply and all that, I had to really go get a job. Like I was working at Aaron's Furniture, where we had to deliver furniture, you know what I'm saying, rental furniture into people's cribs. And so I remember distinctly one day, I was moving a couch to somebody's house, and they had on the basement, or was it the basement? It was BET. It was one of them shows, and my video came on. And so dude is looking at me moving the furniture in there. And I'm looking at the joint, and I'm just like, whatever. So he's looking at the TV. He look at me. Look at the TV. Look at me. And he's like, yo, what are you doing in here? I was like, hey, man, you know what I'm saying? I got to do what I got to do. He was like, yo, you one of the realest dude. Like, I can't believe it. So I sat down with him for a second, had a couple puffs, you know what I'm saying? And then, we were talking about the whole situation. Um, it was a humbling situation, and I had to do what I had to do. And so, that between that time, I started to put in my applications and all that stuff. And then, I took the LSAT, took some LSAT classes. And then, I got into Southern University Law Center, went there in the fall of 2001, graduated in 2003. No, I'm sorry. Boom. Went there in the fall of 2003, graduated in 2006, and then passed the bar in 2007.
Was that always your passion? How did you come up with pursuing the law
No,
degree?
no, absolutely not. You know what? It was the peaks and valleys of the business. It was me signing that deal. In hindsight, that with more education, I probably wouldn't have signed. It was, and not to say that it was a bad deal. It's just that now I know more, and my anxiety, or should I say, my anxiousness for me getting a deal at that time, I was susceptible to anything. Not only that, but I also hired a was it a corporate attorney? Might have been, but in other words, he was not an entertainment attorney. He was not into the music industry. Therefore, the jargon he wasn't educated with the jargon. He wasn't educated with the structure of a record deal. So he understood it from a basic contractual standpoint. And so I remembered these things. You know what I mean? I remembered these things, and I was like, "Yo, kids need representation out here, especially when they're venturing into this business." At that point, it was like that's where the revelation came in. That's where the revelation came in. Hold on, let me plug in my phone. I saw the
Okay.
20%.